Be honest with yourself for just a second here. When was the last time you looked at a raw ingredient and felt genuine excitement instead of pure exhaustion? Most people think they hate cooking, but that is not actually accurate. What they genuinely despise is the invisible labor attached to it. The peeling, the chopping, the waiting, and the mountain of dishes that somehow reproduces in the sink. This entire system is not about becoming a chef. It is about rewiring your relationship with your own kitchen so that eating becomes as automatic as breathing, not a part-time job you dread after 5 o'clock. We are going to bypass the stove entirely and lean hard into strategic laziness. And if that sounds like a concept you can get behind, stick around because this is exactly where my channel lives. Now let us tear apart the old playbook and build something that actually functions. Number 1. Abandon the concept of a composed dinner plate and start building grazing boards for one. When you push that cart down the aisle, the internal monologue must shift completely. You are no longer asking, "What complex dish will I construct this evening?" Instead, you are hunting for a curated selection of 5 to 6 items that can peacefully coexist on a ceramic surface with zero transition time. This mental pivot alters the contents of your basket immediately. You stop buying components that are codependent on one another to taste decent. You begin stockpiling edible entities that hold their own weight. Swap out the whole cucumber that demands a knife for a bag of petite, pre-washed sweet peppers. Forget the dense block of cheddar requiring a grater. Snatch the thin sliced Havarti that peels apart with your fingertips. The critical nuance that determines success or failure here is simple. Every single piece must be a complete experience in isolation, yet elevated when neighboring something salty or sweet. When you finally slump into the chair at home, there is zero assembly. You are merely unveiling containers and letting gravity and appetite dictate the arrangement. No sequence, no clock, no anxiety over whether the pasta water is boiling yet. A quiet but mighty logistical detail involves real estate. Keep this rogue's gallery of snacks at chest height in the cooling unit. The human brain is a lazy processor. If the barrier to entry is a deep crouch and a search behind last week's leftovers, the mission is aborted. Visibility is the currency of consumption. Also, discard the tyranny of precise portions. The goal is not to photograph a perfect, balanced meal. The goal is to quell the hunger riots with minimal friction. If you want round 2 in 20 minutes, that option remains open. That is the very definition of flexibility. And here is the secret sauce nobody whispers about. Variety hits the satisfaction receptors in your brain far harder than sheer bulk. 3 distinct textures and 2 different flavor notes feel like a feast, even if the total volume is modest. That is why this method triumphs over cooking fatigue every single time. It tricks your primitive wiring into believing you have just completed a complex culinary ritual when, in fact, you have merely opened 3 lids. Number 2. Treat the pre-cooked protein aisle like a personal pit crew. Let us slice into the specifics because this is the fulcrum upon which many evenings pivot from disaster to manageable. When your hand hovers over the refrigerated shelves, you are seeking options that require absolute zero kinetic intervention before mastication. Not microwave for 60 seconds, not finish in a skillet, 0. The requirement is that you can peel back the film and consume it directly over the sink or the counter like a dignified scavenger. You are scanning for the bronzed rotisserie bird, the bag of already liberated hard-boiled eggs, and the vacuum-sealed pouch of wild salmon that is ready to flake. Now, the immediate aftermath of the shopping trip is where the real work happens. And it should only take 120 seconds. Do not just hurl the bag of chicken into the dark abyss of the bottom shelf. Perform the act of kindness for your tomorrow self. Strip that carcass of its usable meat and drop it into a clear, shallow storage container. Position the tuna pouches like soldiers at the front line of the pantry. Place the eggs where they cannot be ignored. The tragic error is not the purchase. It is the failure to deconstruct the convenience into an even more granular level of ease. Furthermore, begin viewing a single roasted chicken not as a singular event, but as a dividend-paying asset for 3 to 4 separate no-cook moments. A fistful on a salad blend, a quick collision with some mustard and crackers, tucked into a cold lettuce cup. That is yield optimization, not meal planning. And heed this subtle warning, not all proteins age gracefully in the cold. Some become rubbery, dry, or just psychologically off when not heated. You must gravitate toward the ones that thrive in a state of chilled repose. This is the unspoken rule of the truly no-cook lifestyle. It must taste intentional, not like a sad compromise. Number 3, cease the unwinnable war against pre-cut produce and wave the white flag of surrender. The produce section is a beautiful, deceptive trap designed to fill your crisper drawer with good intentions that eventually turn into brown liquid. Every single item in that section belongs to one of two distinct tribes: fuel now or project for later. The common pitfall is over-indexing on the project category because it looks virtuous and cheaper. Here is the revised grocery decree. If an item requires you to locate a cutting board and a sharp blade, it needs a serious justification for entry into your cart. That does not mean swearing off plants. It means choosing the ones that have already endured the labor on your behalf. Trade the intimidating spiky pineapple for the transparent tub of golden spears. Exchange the dusty head of romaine for the triple-washed, ready-to-dump bag of leafy crunch. Upon returning to base, do not let the opaque bags of pre-washed greens become a forgotten crypt. Decant them if necessary. A clear line of sight is the single most effective appetite stimulant known to modern science. And do not discount the impact on the post-consumption phase. Pre-cut means pre-cleaned. There is no evidence left behind. No sticky knife, no rogue parsley bits on the floor. That is half the mental battle won before it even begins. Consider the narrow window of hunger impulse. It lasts roughly 4 to 7 minutes. If the food isn't accessible within that brief interlude, the brain defaults to the path of least resistance, which is often a bag of chips that requires zero tooling. Pre-cut items slide gracefully into that window. Open, retrieve, resolve. There is no negotiation. There is no bargaining with the inner toddler who wants to order a pizza. Yes, the price tag is a few pennies higher, but you are not paying for the vegetable. You are paying a premium for the removal of resistance, the elimination of waste, and the preservation of your own depleted willpower. That is a bargain. Number 4, fortify the arsenal with an untouchable cache of zero-prep proteins. This is the life raft for the days when you would rather stare at a blank wall than lift a finger. This is not about constructing a meal. This is about putting biological fuel into the tank as quickly as possible. As you navigate the aisles, apply a ruthless filter. Ask the singular question that matters: can I extract this from its vessel and place it directly into my mouth with zero additional manipulation? If the answer contains a but or a maybe, it does not qualify for this elite unit. Yet the crucial misstep here is integration. Most folks purchase these items and then assimilate them into the general population of the fridge, where they are swiftly buried beneath a bag of wilting kale. This renders them useless. You must create a designated sanctuary for these items, front and center. The operational logic is simple. This only functions if it is demonstrably faster than remaining hungry. Imagine the scenario: the energy tank is on fumes. You open the door. If the landscape requires even a single extra step, like locating a fork or unscrewing a stubborn lid, the door closes. You retreat to the couch. But if a glistening, fully prepared option presents itself immediately, the hand moves almost autonomously. That is the reflex you are cultivating, and you must train yourself to stop disqualifying these moments as not a real meal. That is a relic of a bygone era of formal dining. If it satiates the body and provides sustenance, it is valid. You can always layer in a piece of fruit later if the spirit moves you. The primary objective is to extinguish the fire of low blood sugar before it spreads into irritability. It is the equivalent of throwing a log on the embers instead of waiting to build a bonfire from scratch. Once you get a taste of this kind of frictionless fueling, you will find that the frequency of skipped lunches or 9 p.m. cereal dinners plummets. Number 5. Navigate the deli and prepared foods section like a tactician, not a tourist. This part of the store is the silent overachiever, and most people relegate it to the category of special occasion or too expensive. That is a profound miscalculation. This section is a gallery of fully realized, immediate solutions that require no assembly and no post-op cleanup beyond tossing a cardboard tray. Instead of breezing past the case with the pre-made quinoa salads and the stuffed grape leaves, slow down and conduct a proper reconnaissance mission. You are not browsing for a dinner party, you are scouting for that precise moment of weakness when you would otherwise just eat a spoonful of peanut butter and call it a night. Apply a simple 3-point litmus test to any candidate. 1. Is the item pleasing when consumed at refrigerator temperature? 2. Does the density and flavor profile provide a sense of satiety without a side dish? 3. Is this something I will actually crave when my mental faculties are offline? If it passes, you have found a winner, and you must purge the guilt associated with buying someone else's labor. This is not a shortcut, it is efficient resource allocation. Somewhere in a commercial kitchen, a machine or a pair of hands already did the washing, the slicing, the seasoning, and the packing. You are simply opting out of the drudgery. That is intelligence, not indolence. A pro tip for maximizing this resource: practice restraint in volume. These items are at their peak appeal when they are fresh and a little bit novel. If you cram the fridge with 5 different containers of grain salad, decision paralysis sets in and half of it will die in the back. A curated selection of just 2 or 3 ace-in-the-hole options ensures they are actually deployed. Rotate the lineup weekly. Predictability breeds contempt, especially with ready-to-eat food. A slight variation in seasoning or texture keeps the system engaging without any additional effort on your part. Number 6. Elevate the mono-handed fruit to its rightful throne. This sounds so elementary it borders on insulting, yet it is one of the most overlooked levers of dietary consistency. This is about smashing the micro-frictions that lurk between you and a nutrient. When evaluating produce, do not just assess flavor. Assess ergonomics in a moment of passive consumption. Can this item be retrieved, bitten into, and continued to be held while you scroll on a device or watch the television without requiring a second hand or a napkin intervention? That is the benchmark, because the reality of the modern evening is this: you are seated. You are in a state of rest. A vague pang of hunger surfaces. If the response to that pang involves standing up, washing hands, finding a paring knife, and dealing with a sticky residue, the brain will simply file that hunger notice under "deal with later." However, if there is a crisp apple or a handful of cherries within arm's length, the transaction is seamless. It does not disrupt the flow of your decompression. It does not create a new task. It just resolves the issue. The additional under-celebrated benefit is the absolute annihilation of cleanup. You consume the item, you deposit a core or a pit, and the event is over. There is no lingering sense of "I still need to wash that plate." Position this edible artillery in a visible theater of operations. A bowl on the coffee table, a clear bin at the front edge of the fridge shelf. The physical distance between you and the food is the primary determinant of whether it gets eaten. If you have to excavate it, it becomes a non-starter. And the hidden dividend here is that you will end up consuming these items incidentally, not as a structured, healthy choice, but simply because they were the most convenient object in the room. Number 7. Engineer a frictionless sandwich assembly zone. Envision this scenario. You are ravenous, but you are also in a state of decision fatigue where the thought of choosing between bread types feels like a calculus exam. Now, imagine that every necessary element is staged like a NASCAR pit stop. That is the lazy sandwich system. It is not a specific recipe. It is a preordained alliance of ingredients living in close proximity within the cooling unit. You are shopping to maintain a state of readiness. You secure a reliable carbohydrate vessel, a savory anchor, and a moisture or flavor catalyst. Nothing else is required. The mistake that derails this system is the diaspora of ingredients. The jar of mayonnaise is in the door with the mystery condiments. The deli meat is hidden behind the milk. The bread is in the pantry across the kitchen. When hunger strikes, the cognitive load of gathering these scattered components feels like a scavenger hunt you are not willing to participate in. The goal upon returning from the store is adjacency. Collocate these items so the brain can map the entire meal in a single glance. When the eye sees bread, cheese, and lettuce in the same 6-inch radius, the hand moves. That is the magic. And this system is gloriously modular. Some days it manifests as a traditional sandwich between two slices. Other days, when the bread is stale or the spirit is weak, it manifests as a series of roll-ups held together by nothing more than surface tension and hope. Same components, different geometry, zero additional strain. There is a profound psychological comfort in knowing that this fallback is always there, fully operational, like a generator that kicks in when the power of motivation goes out. Number 8. Liberate the freezer aisle from its stigma of last resort. Somewhere along the line, frozen food got branded as the option for people who have given up. That is a flat-out lie. The freezer is, in fact, a sophisticated tool for time travel and waste prevention. Its primary function is to halt the relentless decay of organic matter that plagues every fresh vegetable drawer in America. You know the cycle. You buy a bundle of asparagus with noble intent. Life intervenes. 5 days evaporate. You open the drawer to find a soggy, sad version of its former self. That is a moral and financial defeat. Frozen food does not judge you. It waits. It does not impose a countdown. And here is the advanced no-cook application. You are not looking for frozen items that require a complicated defrost or a trip to the air fryer. You are looking for those that achieve a state of edible readiness with only the passage of time or a brief cold water rinse. Frozen mango chunks are a secret weapon. They are nature's sorbet. Frozen peas, rinsed briefly under tepid water, become a crisp, sweet addition to any snack plate. Frozen cooked edamame pods are ready to pop the moment they thaw slightly. The key metric remains the same: how many steps between the freezer door and your face. And the deeper, more profound advantage of the freezer is the insulation it provides against the empty fridge despair. There will be days when you have not been to the store in a week. The shelves look barren, but the freezer hums along, offering a safety net. It eliminates the excuse that there is nothing to eat. Because there is always something, it just requires you to look in a different compartment. And let us be clear. If the alternative is skipping a meal entirely or ordering a $30 delivery of lukewarm noodles, the frozen option is not just smart, it is superior. Number 9. Establish a designated reach zone within the refrigerator. This is the single most under-leveraged organizational hack in the entire domestic sphere. You can fill your fridge with the most perfect, ready-to-eat food on the planet. But if it is obscured by a large container of leftover chili, it functionally does not exist. The strategy is this. You cordon off one specific shelf or even just the front 6 inches of a shelf, and you declare it a sanctuary of immediacy. Every item that resides in this zone must be capable of being consumed in its current state, without a knife, without a microwave, without a second thought. This is the splash zone for your appetite. When the refrigerator door swings open, the eyes do not need to scan. They land directly on the curated selection of solutions. This is critical because the window of opportunity for a good food choice is terrifyingly narrow. If the first 3 things you see are raw chicken and a head of cabbage, the brain checks out and you close the door. But if the first thing you see is a container of pre-peeled, hard-boiled eggs next to a bag of washed grapes, you have won the first skirmish. The aesthetic of this zone matters. It should be organized but not museum quality. If it looks too pristine, you will subconsciously avoid disturbing it. It should look inviting, like a helpful friend has laid out some options for you. Do not overcrowd this area. A dense, packed shelf reintroduces the cognitive friction you are trying to eliminate. 2 or 3 obvious choices are infinitely more powerful than 10 competing, half-hidden options. This simple act of spatial management transforms the appliance from a cold storage vault into a proactive service station. You are no longer hunting, you are simply selecting. Number 10. Outsource the need for cutlery entirely. Do not roll your eyes at this one. It may seem like a minor detail, but it is often the silent killer of a perfectly good snack opportunity. The deterrent is rarely the act of eating itself. It is the anticipation of the cleanup that follows. The mental whisper that says, "Ugh, if I eat this yogurt, I have to wash a spoon. And if I wash the spoon, I might as well wash that bowl. And now I'm doing chores." So you eat a handful of dry cereal from the box instead. The countermeasure is to stock your inventory with items that are fully self-contained in their delivery mechanism. When you are at the market, add a new filter to your decision matrix. Is this item hand-to-mouth compatible? No fork required, no spoon necessary, no plate to soak. This shifts the entire experience of eating into a new paradigm. It becomes a direct, closed-loop transaction. You reach, you consume, you discard. The end. There is no post-game analysis of dishes in the sink. That removal of the after is a massive psychological weight lifted. Once you acclimate to this level of simplicity, you begin to realize how many small obstacles you were subconsciously navigating just to get a few hundred calories into your system. The act of eating starts to feel lighter. It becomes a fluid part of the evening rather than a formal sit-down production that requires a set change and a cleaning crew. It is a minor adjustment in shopping habits with an outsized impact on daily momentum. Number 11. Replace the tyranny of the recipe card with the freedom of simple pairings. The modern recipe, with its precise measurements and multi-stage instructions, is a document of anxiety for anyone running on low battery. It presents a list of demands when you simply want a list of suggestions. The upgrade is to pivot from execution to combination. You are no longer following a rigid blueprint. You are exploring a Venn diagram of ingredients that naturally complement one another. This is a state of mind that should begin in the store. You are not shopping for Taco Tuesday. You are shopping for things that can be thrown together on a whim. The beauty of the pairing mindset is the lack of commitment required. There is no end goal to achieve. There is no photo on Pinterest that you are failing to live up to. You are simply taking a protein and a crunch and a fat and letting them mingle on a plate. If it feels right, you eat it. If you want a different texture, you add something else. It is a living, breathing, improvisational approach to sustenance. Over time, you develop an intuitive sense for what works. You know that smoked trout and avocado are a match made in heaven. You know that a crisp apple and a slice of sharp cheddar is a complete meal in many cultures. The question shifts from, what do I have to make, to what do I get to put together? That is a question that invites participation rather than resistance. And frankly, these unadorned 2 or 3 ingredient combos are usually what the body is craving anyway, before we complicate it with sauces and sides. Number 12. Embrace the concept of the grocery store as a prep kitchen you don't have to clean. This is the unifying theory that ties every previous point into a coherent philosophy. When this clicks, the way you move through the automatic doors changes forever. You stop viewing the supermarket as a warehouse of raw materials and start seeing it as a massive, fully staffed commissary where thousands of tasks have already been completed on your behalf. The washing, the chopping, the roasting, the portioning. It is all available for a small premium. You are simply choosing the level of service you desire. This is not about being incapable of cooking. It is about being unwilling to spend your finite time and energy on tasks that can be delegated to a machine or a stranger. So when you walk down the aisles, your eyes are tuned to a different frequency. You are spotting the pre-made grain salads, the spiralized vegetable noodles, the peeled garlic cloves, and the already marinated proteins. Instead of seeing these as a cop-out, you see them as a bargain. Every minute of labor you bypass is a minute you can spend resting, working, or being present with people. That is the trade. That is the value proposition. When you pick up a container of pre-cut mango, ask yourself, how many minutes of my life did this just preserve for me? If the answer is more than the extra 60 cents you paid, you have made an incredibly rational economic decision. You are purchasing time and you are purchasing consistency. There is no trophy at the end of life for having peeled the most carrots. If the infrastructure of the modern food supply chain is there to make your life easier, it is not a failure to use it. It is simply common sense. Now, my friend, let us bring this plane in for a landing. The grand narrative that we have been weaving here is not about cooking skills or rigid dietary discipline. It is about the radical reduction of friction. If you can lower the barrier between the thought "I am hungry" and the action "I am eating," you will have solved the vast majority of the problem permanently. Eating well is not a test of willpower. It is a test of environmental design. When your surroundings are set up to support you with easy grabs, smart combos, and zero-effort proteins, you will find yourself nourished without ever feeling like you clocked in for a second shift. No pressure, no elaborate blueprints, just a series of small, strategic, and forgiving decisions that align with your actual energy levels instead of fighting them. That is the real victory here. Not perfect, photogenic plates, but consistent, repeatable wins that make you feel like you have your life together, even on a Tuesday when you would rather do nothing. If you are ready to stop wrestling with the stove and start working with your own kitchen, you are exactly where you belong here at my channel. If this video helped shift your perspective even slightly, smash that like button so the algorithm knows we are onto something good. And let me know down in the comments, which one of these 12 strategies are you going to implement first on your very next grocery trip? I read those, and I want to hear the creative ways you are reclaiming your evening. See you in the next one.